Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files. My name is Kelly, and I'm a foster with Cross Your Paws Rescue in the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. And I had alluded to this early in the podcast that my primary love is with rescue dogs, and that's my experience. So it's what I've talked about. So I am so excited today to finally branch out and talk about some different animals and the work that's being done in a different type of animal welfare. So I have invited Jenna to join the podcast today. She is the founder of the Soaring Spirits Sanctuary, and I wanted to talk about the work that she does and how you can get involved if you find that birds are really your passion in animal welfare. So welcome, Jenna. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. So I want to learn all about Soaring Spirits. I have a very, very limited Facebook only knowledge of your sanctuary. I think a friend of a friend shared it with me years ago, a couple years ago. So when did you start it? What's the work that you do? And about what area are you guys located in?
Yeah, so I started Soaring Spirits Sanctuary last year in April. So we've been around for about a year and a half. We're located in Beech Creek, Pennsylvania, and we're a small private in-home rescue. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we rely heavily on donations.
So what drove you to start a bird sanctuary? Tell me that story.
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. I used to work at a nursing home up in State College, and being a bird owner, I've owned birds my entire life, so I'm very familiar with them. Being a bird owner, I noticed that there was a parakeet in the nursing home that seemed like it was suffering from neurological damage. It seemed to have bashed into the glass aquarium type thing that it was held in. So I brought it up to my boss, and I basically pleaded with her to let me take this bird home after my shift. She said, "Yeah, go ahead and take it home because I was just going to put it outside tonight, and let nature take its course." So that's where it started, and that little bird is Pickles. Pickles came home with me, and I syringe fed him formula for 3 days, and unfortunately, he did pass away. So that was kind of my first case on the way to opening this rescue. After I did that, though, a lot of people told people that I did that. So I started getting calls from people saying, "Hey, we know that you know how to take care of sick and injured birds. Hey, I have these birds. I'm just going to kind of dump them on you." And then that just kept cycling and cycling. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I love this. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, but it's getting out of hand. So let's try our chances at opening a nonprofit and doing this a little bit more seriously. From that day, it has just snowballed and we haven't looked back since. And we've been busier and busier as the time goes on.
I'm sure that it's true with your experience that there is no shortage of need. There is
Right.
only a shortage of resources. So
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to hear the demand that you have because, I mean, frankly, it sucks that the demand
Yeah.
is so high. So, do you operate the sanctuary out of your home, or do you guys have like a location that you operate out of? How does that work?
So we are in-home rescue. We don't really have plans of expanding to a facility. I feel like if I were to expand to a facility, I may run myself thin and not be able to give the birds the kind of one-on-one care that I am able to give right now. Now, with us being as full as we are, I did stop intakes for little birds right now, just because I know I could have space for little birds to come in, but then I feel like I wouldn't be able to give these birds my complete one-on-one attention to each and every bird that comes in these doors. So like super value being able to interact with these birds one-on-one, and not turn into a larger facility to prevent these birds not getting the attention they deserve every day.
So, how many birds do you have in your care right now? What does max capacity look like for you?
So as far as little birds go, we have close to 50, and that's birds that are available for
Wow.
adoption right now. Right, yeah, we're
Wow.
very, very full of little birds. As far as large birds go, we have one sanctuary bird who's a Moluccan cockatoo, and she's not going to be leaving due to health reasons. And then we've got another couple new intakes of large birds that are pending disease testing and rehab work. And then as far as that goes, that's about all we have other than my personal birds that are in another part of the house.
Oh wow. I mean, that's a whole lot of birds to have in one. house.
It's loud.
Yeah, I mean, we can hear some of it in the background of the
Yep.
recording. That's pretty cool. So,
Yep.
that's amazing. So, tell me about some of the types of birds that you have. I mean, I'm sure you have parakeets, budgies, lovebirds, cockatiels, cockatoos, parrots, right? Like, I'm sure you've got a lot, right?
Right now it's a pretty big range. So we have everything from this itty bitty little tiny finch to my largest bird right now is I guess you could say a Moluccan cockatoo or a blue and gold macaw. So I've got everything in between that too. So it's it's a big range of birds for sure.
Wow. How did you end up with something like a finch? I wouldn't consider a finch being like, I would put finch in like wildlife rescue as opposed to like domesticated animal rescue. Help me understand how you make that differentiation.
Yeah, so typically a finch is not something I would take on. It's actually the first time I've ever taken one on. But the man who surrendered her, really needed something for her, and it kind of came down to her either coming here or the bird being turned over to a pet store, which then would turn into breeding more birds. And so that was something I just kind of couldn't say no about. But in terms of that, we don't take in wild birds. They carry too many outside diseases, even pet pigeons and pet doves, because I know some stores do sell them domesticated. Those we don't take on. So we are primarily parrots. However, I do have the one little finch right now.
Interesting. That's so interesting. I wonder how he even came to possess a finch.
Yeah, you can really buy anything online is what it comes
You know
down
what?
to.
That's true. Honestly, it
Yep.
was kind of naive of me to even say it that way. You can get anything online. I tell people that all the time.
Any-
So
Anything, yep.
I have a really stupid question that you just made me think about. Can birds be fixed, like spayed or neutered, like cats and dogs can?
No, they cannot. And you actually cannot DNA, sex, or gender a bird visually. There's some old tales that you can physically do it, but however, the most accurate way to tell if a bird is male or female is by drawing blood and sending it out to a lab.
So how does a responsible bird owner who might want to have more than what? Like I've always heard, I had birds as a kid. My nan had a parrot, a blue Amazon, who's
Nice.
still alive and outlived her. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for birds, but I've always heard that lovebirds really should be together in pairs, like they're super social. Whether or not that's true aside, let's assume you do want to have more than one bird. How do you make sure that you're not creating an issue with having more?
Yeah, so that's completely specific on the bird that you have in a case by case basis. It has a lot to do with personality and hormones as well. For example, I have a male and a female cockatiel, Tofu and Bach. I've had them since before I was a rescue, and they have mated, I guess we could say, over and over and over again daily. It's really annoying actually, but they do it all the time. But Tofu will never ever lay eggs, and the big reason for that is not providing nesting material for them. So you'll see a lot of times
Oh,
people have those little snuggle huts in their birds' cages, and that's my worst enemy because birds will use that as a nest. Also, taking away stuff like, the little confetti toys and shredded paper, even cardboard, boxes, tight, dark areas, any cavities outside of the cage. So, like under the couch, behind a table. Preventing them from seeking nesting ground is one big way to prevent reproducing. The other thing is providing nesting materials. So, like I said, the shredded paper and stuff like that. So, theoretically, if you're not providing your birds with that, they should never lay an egg. It is crazy. Some female birds will go
yeah.
their entire life without laying an egg, and you may think that you have a male bird because you never got it lab tested for male or female. But it's just a female that never laid an egg. They can go for eternity without laying an egg.
That's so wild because I don't know of any other domesticated animal. Like, I obviously don't know about every animal's breeding habits. That would be insane for me. But, like, I don't know about any other domesticated animal that can essentially say, this is not the ideal environment in which to procreate. So I'm not going to. Right.
Yep.
Because, like, dogs, cats, if they get pregnant, they get pregnant. It does
Yep.
not matter the situation that they're in. They're going to have that litter. So that
Yep.
is so, like, honestly, Okay, so now I'm a little annoyed because it sounds like it's actually kind of easy to make sure that you don't continue to breed them. So if you're doing it, it's intentional, right?
Yep, typically if they're doing it, if they're doing it and they don't want the eggs to happen and it's happening, it's because they're usually providing them something nesting material that they don't realize is, or they're straight up sticking a box on the side of their cage or giving them a cardboard box or something of the sorts, and they're going in there and laying their eggs.
That's wild. So how do you hear about birds in need? And is it primarily owner surrenders, kind of like dogs and cats? Is it like abandoned animals? How does that all come about?
Right now, looking back, I can say it's probably about 50-50 between owner surrenders slash owner deaths because the birds do outlive the people in most cases. And then on the other 50% of that, it's been a lot of animal control, state police, other organizations contacting me, such as the SPCA that cannot physically take care of this bird. They don't have the tools to do so. Or like we got a call from a wildlife rescue a while back about some larger parrots. So it's pretty 50-50 on what's going on right now.
Are you connected with other bird rescues and sanctuaries? Like if you're unable to take somebody in, you can say, hey, call this person and see if they're available.
Yes, unfortunately, there's not many people to call, so I do seem to
Right.
stress out my other rescue friends. Unfortunately, it comes down to me having to call a lot of the other rescues, to find someone that does have availability or somebody that might be closer to the person, or somebody that has better resources, like has had experience with treating X, Y, and Z before. So we definitely were a tight community. But we all are communicating with each other and helping each other out as best as we can. And with that comes a lot of referrals.
So, in the years that I've been going to different events, I've never seen a bird adoption event. So, how do advertise these birds that are available for adoption? How do you get them out and about to try to get them, appropriate homes? How does that work for you?
It's really hard. It was really hard in the beginning too because our local community, the bird community is huge across the United States. There's always bird lovers somewhere, but in our immediate local community, a lot of people still don't really know that I'm around. Or we just don't have bird owners, so there's not really anyone, supporting or coming to adoption events or things like that locally. It does get hard for me to place birds sometimes, but we're always willing to work with new bird owners and we're always willing to educate. As far as like trying to arrange events and stuff like that, we have one coming up in Red Lion. So it's a little bit farther from home, but we're hoping that we find new people to bring into this community with that event.
So Red Lion is actually close to where my family lives in the Susquehanna Valley. So that's because that's Southern York County. Tell me about the event.
We will be there doing walk-ins for grooming. So anybody that might have like corrective beak trims that they need done, nail trims for their birds. And then we are doing a pre-approval process right now for our adoptable birds. So we can kind of go over the applications and do the interviews for adoption, and then know which birds to bring to that event. We're hoping it's going to be a good turnout. We've already gotten a lot of people interested in it. And one of our largest cases that we took on recently of over 50 birds actually came from Red Lion. So I'm hoping that some people that were impacted by seeing that case, seeing the condition those birds were in, will come and support this event as well. And even if they're not adopting, just come and show the support because that is very local to where that big case happened.
Okay, so for those of you who are interested in maybe the Susquehanna Valley area, you're going to want to go to Cape Horn Incredible Pets. It's in Red Lion, Pennsylvania. It looks like it's 673 Lombard Road. And the event is on Saturday, October 25th at 10:30. So it sounds like it's going to be a really great event. Even if you just want to come out and kind of see what's available, even if you're flirting with the bird ownership in general, Jenna's going to be there to maybe help out, answer some questions. Because I think bird ownership is sort of intimidating is the right word. But I think that there's a lot of people that don't know what they're getting into. Like to your point about what happened with my nan and what you said, like parrots can live 100 freaking years.
Yep, absolutely. And it can definitely seem intimidating to people who are definitely dancing around the idea of getting a bird, but we would much rather have you come out and ask questions. And no question is a dumb question to me. Like I said before, always willing to help out people who are brand new bird owners. We'd rather show you all of the best tools that we have and give you all of our opinions and advice and help versus, some of the birds that end up here because people buy them because they see a cute or funny video on TikTok or YouTube and they have no idea what they're getting into.
So, speaking of advice, if someone is considered adopting a bird, what are some things they need to take into consideration? What are some things they need to think about if they want to potentially become a bird owner?
Yeah, so the first thing before you're even considering getting a bird is looking at your house, looking at your surroundings, looking at what items you use on a daily basis. Sorry to my Bath and Body Works girls, but you're gonna have to trash all those candles, and perfumes. Also, looking at your kitchen utensils, are you using pots and pans that have Teflon in them? If so, they have to go. Perfumes and aerosols for the air, like room fresheners, stuff like that's got to go as well. Chemical cleaners, your all-purpose spray that you use on your counters, that's got to go. Ceiling fans, are you someone that has a ceiling fan on all the time? Maybe you should consider like a box fan or a fan on a stand. So there's a lot of things that you got to start out with within your home environment. Do you have smokers in the home? Are they willing to smoke outside instead of inside? Stuff like that is really big when it comes to considering a bird. And the next thing you got to consider is, are you ready for a bird that might not talk, that might never talk, might bite you? It's not a if the bird's going to bite you, it's a when the bird's going to bite you. Are you willing to stay updated on education? Because birds are not domesticated pets like cats and dogs. So there's always new scientific things coming out for education regarding pet ownership of parrots. Is that something you're willing to make changes to? Do you have an avian vet near you? If it's not an avian vet, do you have an avian vet within a driving distance that you'd be willing to do in case of an emergency? And the last thing I find very important is, do you have enough time to deal with giving your bird attention and enrichment? Part one of that is birds do fly. I'm a big advocate on not clipping wings. So, are you in a situation where you don't mind a bird flying around your room? And the second part to that is, are you in a position where you can let the bird out for several hours a day and deal with the bird screaming? Because birds do scream and it's going to happen regardless. I would not consider a bird if you're in an apartment, especially not like a bird of a larger caliber. But there's lots of things you've got to think about, consider before you even look into bringing a bird home.
I love to burn candles because I don't want my house to smell like a dog.
Yep.
So I want you to tell me why that is not okay.
Yeah, so the way that a bird breathes, not similar to humans, cats, dogs, other mammals, when we take a breath in and we're breathing out, we're breathing out what we just breathed in as far as like chemicals, fumes, stuff like that. Now birds, however, by nature, when they breathe in, what they're breathing in stays in their body a lot longer. This goes back to parrots flying several hundred miles a day in the rainforest. They need to be able to hold the oxygen in longer for flying long distances like that. So when you're burning something such as a candle, the fumes and the toxins of the candle are staying in their body longer. There's a lot of things that can make a bird drop dead in an instant. I mean, it might be up singing and talking and flying around and perfectly fine and happy one second, and the next it's unfortunately deceased on the ground. So a lot of that has to do with their lungs, their air sacs that are all the way through their body, and the way that their body filters things. And a fun fact, they actually only have one lung.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that the case for all birds,
I believe
as far
so.
as you know? I had heard the Teflon thing before. So it's something
Mhm.
about heating up the Teflon coating is actually produces a toxic chemical that can be
Yep.
dangerous to birds,
Yep,
right?
it emits it into the air. Once it reaches a certain temperature, then those chemicals start coming off.
That's so interesting. So then I have another follow-up question. Why, not that I'm for it, but I want to know what your case is for not clipping wings.
Yeah, so I think my case is just simply because I work in rescue and I see a lot of the bad that comes with clipping wings. Get a lot of birds in here who have essentially no chest muscles at all. They cannot extend their wings anymore. It's painful for them or their wings are stiff. The way I explain it is if they're not moving it, they're losing it, kind of like an old lady. Um,
Atrophy.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what happens. Another thing, as far as clipping wings go, a lot of people want to clip wings because they think that their bird's not going to fly away if they do so. Clipping wings does not mean your bird cannot fly. I want to make that very clear. They cannot, it's not that they can't fly at all. They just can't fly in a predator situation. Say there's a cat in the yard. The bird is not going to be able to defend itself and get away from a cat. Sometimes when people clip wings, the bird can no longer gain height, it can't gain length as it's flying away, and it certainly can't protect itself. A lot of issues that come with that as well. Clipping wings, they're a lot more prone to hurting themselves. They have what's called a keel bone, kind of where our sternum is running down their rib cage. And if that keel bone breaks, I mean, it can kill them instantly. So when a bird can't fly and it's fallen to the ground, there's a much higher chance of that bird cracking its keel bone and becoming severely injured, if not dying from that. So while it is a very controversial topic, it's definitely also an outdated practice, in my opinion, and there's other ways around it. We advocate strongly for harness training. Harness training is not something you're comfortable with or something you're unable to do with your bird. Then we definitely recommend other safe measures like taking your bird outside in a carrier or into an outdoor cage, something like that. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
Okay, let me get this straight. When you say harness training, are you talking about something that like goes over their chest? Like
Yeah.
it's literally like a little, because that's like
Yes.
insane for me to even picture. Like
Yep.
it's literally a harness
It's pretty
that
cute,
goes over
honestly.
the chest. It sounds cute. And
Yep.
so like, so okay, because it's kind of making me want another bird. So that you can like literally have it outside and it can fly, but it's like attached to a harness and leash. So it's working the muscles, but it's not really going anywhere.
Right, right. And there's actually companies for people that are flight training their birds that have like super extendable, leads for the harness to allow them to go up and fly circles within the lead. So it is pretty cool.
Wow.
There's a lot of different companies that do it and there's a lot of different
That's
styles to choose
crazy.
from, but they all have the same goal of just keeping your bird secure and safe.
Because ultimately, if we're being honest, that bird's going to fly away if it has an opportunity to fly away.
It
Right?
can. Yep. I mean, it certainly can. I mean, even something could spook it, such as a plane flying over or a dog running by or, even
Right.
a car driving by can spook it. And you might think
Right.
that your bird is recall trained. And for some people, they are able to recall train their birds and it's beautiful to see. I mean, like watching a bird being able to fly circles, I mean, in the sky is insane to me. It's really cool, but not always will they do that. And there's a lot of people that do flight training that sit at the bottom of a tree for 8 hours and wait for the bird to make it down.
Wow. So, okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. And my listeners probably hate it when I go on a tangent. But when I was a teenager, I had a blue parakeet named Chipper. I don't even actually remember how we got him. I want to say like a friend had him and they didn't want him anymore. And we ended up with him. That bird could be downstairs on top of his cage. I could call him from my second story bedroom, and that bird would fly up into my room onto my shoulder and straight up just hang out with me, just sitting on the ceiling fan. Obviously, it wasn't on, but sitting on the ceiling fan, like hanging out with me for hours. He was a very cool bird.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my favorite like pet memories as a kid. And then like my nan had her Amazon and his name is Pepsi and he's still alive. He lives with my aunt now. I know
That's
she
cute.
really did love Pepsi.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So his name is Pepsi and he was attached to her. Like he would straight up bite anybody that was not Nanny. And it's my understanding that they will get attached to one person if they're given
Mhm.
an opportunity to. Is that true to your experience?
Yeah, that's actually more true than not. We get a lot of people that ask for birds that are family friendly, and while that's not impossible, it is very few and far in between. Birds do bond hard to one person or, for example, another bird if given the opportunity to, and they do become protective and defensive over their person. I actually currently, out of my personal birds, and I think out of this entire rescue right now, only have one bird that's comfortable being passed from me to another person. And even then, he's pretty particular about, who he's being passed to. They're pretty good at sensing and deciding who they do like and don't like pretty instantly. But it's not unusual for a bird to attack somebody else, another family member, especially a spouse. So, like, for example, my husband can't touch about 90% of my birds, or they will attack him and they will bite for blood. So he does get pretty upset about that. But he also has a bird that absolutely hates me to death and sees me as their worst enemy, but is like a complete doll baby to my husband.
So, why should somebody consider adopting a bird who's never had a bird before? What's special about them?
I think that for one, I would love to see younger people adopt a bird. We need more people from the newer generations to start getting into pet care. These birds didn't ask to be brought in as house pets. They really didn't. We simply could not provide or replicate what they have in the wild, and there's no way we could do it. So I think that adopting is very important because, we as humans created this mess. I also think that birds can be incredible companions, and it's something I just simply cannot describe to you until you own one. They're not like cats and dogs. They are so intelligent. They're, as some people say, and as some studies show, as smart as 4 to 5 year old children. They have the emotional capacity of that. So I think that it's definitely an experience worth having. If you're fully ready to commit to a lifetime, literally a lifetime responsibility, and you think that you're able to provide them with everything they need, then I certainly recommend getting a bird. They can be so much fun, seriously, so much fun, but they're a lot of work. They're not like the cute TikTok videos that you see online.
Yeah, I mean, Nanny was always caring for Pepsi all the time. I mean, he
Mhm.
was and still is. My aunt has to carry that on, but he still is work. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that you say that they're a lot of work. But I mean, when we were kids, she could pass him to us. I mean, I have pictures of him on my shoulder as a like a I don't know, probably 10-year-old, and there's this huge like blue Amazon
It does
on
happen.
my shoulder. Yeah, but to be fair though, he grew out of that later in life. Later in life, I definitely and we weren't around as much, so he didn't know us really all that well. But he would only not bite my Pap if Nan wasn't around. If Nan was around, he was biting Pap for sure if
Yeah,
he got an
forget it.
opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So would you, because this is the part that is so like concerning for me, are we still as a country, are we still bringing in wild birds to this country and saying we want to domesticate them? Or is this primarily a breeding issue at this point?
So I want to say, and I don't quote me on this, it's been
Hmm.
39 years since the United States closed the import of exotic parrots into the country. So with that, we do still have wild birds here in terms of wild caught birds. And they're easily identifiable by a certain band that they wear on the leg that was marked by the government association that did this. And so it is easy to tell when you have a wild caught bird. But yes, they were brought into the United States for breeding and for the pet trade. As far as I know right now, though, there is no imports of wild birds into the United States.
At least not legally. Right.
Not legally,
So
right,
but
exactly.
we can only have the conversation that we know to have. So
Mhm.
right now, the reason that you have 50 little birds in your house is from breeding and pet stores.
Exactly. Yep. So these birds specifically came from a store that was, I guess, left abandoned. Somebody was walking along the street. They needed to go into this store to buy bird food. The doors were unlocked. It was during opening hours. They walked in, the lights were off. The birds seemed really distressed. She looked into the cages. There's no food and water. Called the cops. She made, a post on Facebook about it, and some other people commented, I was walking by the store the other day and there was nobody there, and this was 3, 4 days ago. By the time the police got in and investigated everything and located the owners of the store, had been nearly 7 days, 7 or 8 days without food and water. And the conditions these birds came in were horrific. None of them were disease tested. A lot of the breeder birds had bloody and open wounds, various issues with their nares and eyes and lungs and health in general. They were on a poor diet. So it is a lot of unethical breeding. And that's how I receive a lot of these birds, is just people trying to make quick money.
It's so indicative. It's so culturally accepted at this point, honestly, because it's not, really, cats aren't as bad for that, but dogs are obviously a massive issue in that same way, and birds are a massive issue in that way, and that's really such a shame.
The worst part about it is that there's no laws on birds really at
So
all.
that was going to be my next question, Jenna, is like, what are some laws that you wish were in place when it comes to these birds?
We already know that puppy mills and the amount of outdoor colonies of cats is a huge issue, and we already know that those animals are desperately in need of care and homes and better laws. But when it comes to parrots, there's nothing in place with that. In an unnamed state, a case that I'm working on right now, there was a backyard breeder who was also a hoarder, severely mentally ill, and unfortunately, the victims of this situation are the birds and the cats and the dogs in this home. However, when it came to me taking these birds, I had asked the state if they needed vet records on these birds to help aid in the case for charges and stuff like that. Well, the judge told me basically that there's no laws on how many birds this person is allowed to have, and there's no laws on how you keep their birds. So as long as there was food and water in the cage, doesn't matter if the water is clean or dirty, and it doesn't matter what kind of food these birds had. It doesn't matter. They don't need the vet records. There's nothing they're going to do about it because there's nothing by the book that they can do about it. So I would love to see some more, changes in how we are to keep these birds, more guidelines on what is right and what is wrong, more so ethically what is right and what is wrong. Birds are also another animal that you can't necessarily look at and diagnose with a problem. They're predators, or sorry, they're prey animals, so they hide their illnesses very well.
Girl, what kind of birds you got?
So, they hide their illnesses very well. So, birds can drop dead and you'll never have any idea that anything was wrong with them until you take them in to get crop seed down on their body. And sure enough, they were hiding cancer or something else like liver failure or kidney disease, and you would have never known because they hide their illnesses super well. So for a judge to also, look at the ruling of a home and say these birds have nothing wrong with them, I mean, sure, to anybody's eyes, it does look like there's nothing wrong with them, but they could be suffering internally from other things.
I don't understand, and this is not more of a question, this is more of like just a conversation between the two of us. I don't understand why there can be laws in place about how many dogs you can have or how many cats you can have, and they can't just say how many pets generally you can have. You know what I mean? Like, I've had in my life, I've had 5 dogs at one time, and that is a lot of dogs. And it's a lot of dogs to take care of. If I had added many more beings on top of that, I'd be stretched thin for the proper care that I could give them. So what are we doing here? Why are we not having a conversation about, let's just keep this in order and make sure that your domesticated animals are to a certain limit so that you can provide them proper care? But, I guess there's a fine line between law and care of animals and personal liberties. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's really a shame. So, how can people find you? How can people find your sanctuary? And how can people find other sanctuaries like yours, maybe in the area where they live?
Honestly, a simple Google search of parrot rescue or parrot shelter brings us right up. Our Google listing has been found in other states, including Texas. I have no idea how that happened. We're not in Texas. So, Also Facebook groups, a lot of like, the big bird groups that are on Facebook that got like 100,000 people in them. You'll typically find us on groups like that. And then just word of mouth. We really need word of mouth right now, especially within our local community. I'm sure you could search in any state that you're in, parrot rescue near me, and it'll pop up with some of them. I believe there is at least one parrot rescue in almost every state. I might be wrong about that. There might be some states that don't have any at all, but that also just goes to show like there's just not enough help out there for what we really need. But yeah, just a simple Google search will find us.
So don't buy a bird from a pet store. If your kid wants a bird, if your kid is thinking about getting a bird or you're thinking about getting a bird, find a local bird rescue because there are a lot of birds in needs. And honestly, there's a lot of pet stores that just need to be out of business in general.
Yeah.
Don't buy your bird from a pet store.
Right.
So I would love to hear about a bird that you have that needs a home. So I want to do our foster spotlight, and I'm hoping that you have a bird that you can talk about today.
Yep. So upcoming for adoption at some point soon will be Sugar, an umbrella cockatoo. Sugar is a wonderful bird, but she is an umbrella cockatoo, which is a very difficult species. They are one species that I say should have never, ever, ever been domesticated. They are wild, they're unpredictable. They're so much fun, don't get me wrong, but they are more so like a toddler that just never grows up, throws a tantrum about everything, will destroy your house, destroy your woodwork, and scream for hours and hours and hours on end. But that doesn't mean she's any less deserving of a good home.
Case, Jenna.
Well, that's the reality of it. If I'm not going to be bluntly honest about it, you're going to have no idea what you're walking into. She was allowed for a very, very, very long time. She had two owners. She outlived the first owner that actually hand raised her from a hatchling. Went to a second owner. The second owner had her for a very long time and then ran into a big, big life change that ultimately ended in her having to give Sugar up. In the last 2 months, Sugar has gone through 4 homes. And that's before coming to me. A lot of people, like I've said already, like 2 or 3 times in this, is a lot of people saw cockatoos dancing and being funny and erratic online. They bought the bird, knew nothing about it, and that resulted in them having Sugar for about 2 weeks and giving her to the next home. Unfortunately, a lot of people profited off of Sugar along the way before she ended up here with us. But Sugar is definitely a bird I want to highlight because, there is a good home out there for her somewhere. There's someone that understands cockatoos, understands what they need, doesn't mind being bit, doesn't mind their trim being chewed up, and will love her endlessly. So she's definitely your typical funny, hilarious, erratic, crazy cockatoo, but she needs somebody that truly understands her. Now, she's not quite yet available for adoption. She does need to go through some rehab to kind of untangle this trauma that she's been through a lot recently. After having a very, very loving first half of her life, it kind of changed really fast. So we've got to unravel some of that trauma and some of those issues that came along with that. But we're looking for her final landing spot. She's about 40 years old, so we're trying to find someone that she could live with for the next 20 to 50 years, given that she lives that long. And I just know somebody's out there that just loves the craziness of a cockatoo and also understands that what they need is demanding, but also rewarding in the same sense.
So when you adopt a bird out, and I apologize for sort of coming up with another question after your spotlight, but when you adopt a bird out, what kind of things can an adopter expect that will come with this bird? Because just to kind of give you a perspective of where I'm coming from, dogs are often spayed and neutered upon adoption. They're up to date on vaccinations, that kind of thing. So what does that look like for you adopting a bird out?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're too small of a rescue to be able to give out cages with our birds at this time, but we do provide a lot of other things. Our birds are all disease tested, they're vet checked when needed. They've all been transitioned onto a wonderful diet. So, had any birds had issues with eating just purely seeds or peanuts before, they're now eating a good blend of dry food and chop every single day. Chop is the term for fresh cut fruits and vegetables. Along with that, they're also getting lifetime support from us. If anything happens in the future, if an emergency arises, we will always take the bird back. It's part of our contract for us to take the bird back and to also assist you in anything you might need, any sort of changes you see, any sort of issues that arise with behaviors, stuff like that. I mean, I answer the phone like all hours of the day, including 3 in the morning. So you'll always get a friendship out of us as well. We're always here to help, recommend anything that you might need, when the time comes. If you want to upgrade the cage or something, we can always help you find something for the bird. And another thing, we offer free groomings for life as well. So, when your bird needs its nails and beak done, we'll either come to you or you can come to us. So we offer definitely a lot of support.
You have a maximum radius where you'll adopt from. The rescue I work with is 50 miles. And part of the reason that they do that is because if there is an issue, we want an adopter to get that dog back to us, right? So, do you have a limitation like that with your rescue?
So I don't have a set in stone limitation. It kind of is a
Mm.
case by case basis. If we feel that
Okay.
someone is just a wonderful, amazing home, and the bird, also decides that this is a wonderful family that they want to stay with, we would make exceptions for longer distances under the understanding that the bird is to be brought back to us if anything were to happen. And also, we've had people come from like 7 hours that are some of our best adopters that have become like best friends to me. So it's definitely doable if you're farther away, but we will never ship birds to you. You must come to the rescue to meet the bird, and at the end of the day, the bird must choose you. Birds aren't one size fit all like cats and dogs, so you might have your heart set on a certain bird, and you might pass the adoption interview and the pre-application and everything, and then you get here and the bird decides it wants to rip your head off. You're not taking that bird home. So there are a couple things, based off of it doesn't really matter where you live, but you have to kind of fall into the box for all of these other things.
That's completely fair. I will tell you, dogs are not one size fits all.
Yep.
Not at all. Well, thank you so much. So, I want you to tell us and everybody what socials you have. So, you said you're on Facebook at Soaring Spirits Sanctuary, correct?
Yep. And you can also find us on TikTok. It's Soaring Spirits Sanctuary as well. Facebook is our main page. We don't really have a website. I mean, I have a website that I'm horrible at updating and probably haven't updated it in like 2 months, but you're going to mostly find us there on Facebook.
Okay, awesome. I will share the link to your Facebook page. And if you could send me some pictures of Sugar, that would be awesome. I'll post those as well and get her name out there so we can find a great home for the better half of your life, her life. Is there any one last thing that you want to leave people with when it comes to bird rescue, bird welfare, and bird adoption?
Yeah, the last thing I guess I could leave with this is one thing I always say is be the voice for the voiceless. These birds didn't ask to be brought here. They're truly wild animals at heart and, I mean, in their mind. So if you see something that doesn't seem right, speak up, because they can't speak up for themselves. They don't have rights like cats and dogs do. I mean, cats and dogs barely have rights as it is as far as animal
Right.
welfare. So if you see something that seems off, speak up. Please be the voice for them.
That's so amazing. Well, thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing. And thank you for taking some time on cage cleaning day
Yep.
to me and
Absolutely.
update me on the work that you're doing. I honestly, thank you. I've learned so much today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. Sorry we had to reschedule a couple times. I appreciate your
No, that's
flexibility.
hey, that's what happens. Everybody's busy and all of this is volunteer, so I completely understand. So thanks again and you have a great one, okay?
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you again to Jenna from Soaring Spirits Sanctuary for taking time out of her incredibly busy day and busy life to talk to us about bird rescue and bird welfare. I did want to leave you guys with a few reminders. Soaring Spirit Sanctuary bird grooming and meet and greet is going to be happening on Saturday, October 25th at Cape Horn Incredible Pets in Red Lion, Pennsylvania. The address is 673 Lombard Road. And again, that is going to be Saturday, October 25th at 10:30 a.m. Make sure you stop out, learn a little bit more about maybe adopting a bird, and then show your support for Soaring Spirit Sanctuary. As always, please follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Foster Files Podcast. You can also email me at thefosterfilespodcast@gmail.com. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for listening.